Welcome to the India at Harvard podcast, and welcome to our guest today, Niren Chaudhary. Niren, thank you so much for being here today. We are delighted to be in your company. Niren, you served as chairman of the board of Panera Breads from 2023 to 2024, one of the largest fast casual restaurant companies across the globe. From what we hear, almost 4,000 locations across 10 countries. Prior to becoming that, you were the chairman of the board. You served as CEO of Panera Brands and Panera Bread. You also served as COO and president of Krispy Kreme and held global leadership positions, including global president of KFC and president of Yum India. So incredible experience, almost 35 years in food and retail, that too across the globe. So we're really delighted to get your lessons and learning today. We thought we would start this podcast, given that it's India focus, with your initial days in India. I know you've been telling us a little bit about your time at the Taj and Tata Group. So please tell us about how those initial days shaped your core values and leadership style as a COO. And
Well, firstly, it's great to see you both. Thank you for the opportunity to have a conversation. Yes, as you were describing my experience, I had to reflect and say, "Wow, it's been an extraordinary adventure of leading some incredible brands across the world, having lots of fun, working with amazing people, and food is such a wonderful business to be in." Because it's emotional. It's all about enjoying great food with people that you love and care about, and that's what kept me in that business for about 35 years, as you said. Yes, it is true. I started my career in India. Grew up in India in New Delhi. DPS Stephens, did my MBA, then joined the Tata Administrative Service, which is fantastic, and then through them I joined the Taj Group of Hotels. I was like really drawn in by the glamour of the hotel business. It was like fantastic to see and be able to stand inside the product. If you think about it, the hotel is like a product and you can stand inside it. And it's all about people serving people and so people centric. People as guests who are coming in with different needs, and then people on the other side who are serving those needs in the best possible manner. And I've found that such a dynamic process, and that's when my love affair with food and hospitality began, as I stood in the lobby of the Taj Palace Hotel in New Delhi and I said, this is it. Life can't get any better to be in a people orientated industry. And then I think the privilege of working with the Tatas, which is like really extraordinary. And what stayed with me to this day are the values of the Tatas. Two things. One is business is incomplete without having a clear passion for a purpose to serve. And the Tatas were always very purpose driven. That has stayed with me. And the second is how integrity is a personal choice. It is something that you as a leader choose to do, and it has nothing to do with the environment in which you operate. The environment can be tough, but you can still decide to lead with integrity by doing the right things, which is what the Tatas have done over the last so many decades. So those two attributes really stayed with me.
we've learned that both obviously brands recruited top talent from India. So it's really incredible to know that you started your journey with these extraordinary, brands and companies. Did you actively seek them out as a young professional? How did that happen before we go take you away from India?
Purely accidental. So most of my early career decisions were very illogical, I'm embarrassed to say. So in school, I took commerce because my best friend went there. Then I did well in school, and then I joined Stephens because they had the best crowd. So I went there. And then everybody was writing their MBA exam, so I wrote the MBA exam. And then I joined the MBA class, and then, you had this thing of if you got a job, then you were out of the recruitment process. So I applied to TAS, I got the job, I was out. So that was it. So before, I wish I had something more strategic to say, but it was just like a happy set of coincidences that happened that led me to the Taj.
Yeah.
And who did
Before
you
I ask
stay
you the
with?
next question, Niren, what's the one Taj property? I know it's going to be a bit of a tough one, maybe. What's the one Taj property you'll go back to eyes closed if you had the choice going any one property? Which one?
I would say that, the Taj, I have a very sort of a soft spot for the Taj because of the warmth and the promise of the Taj hospitality experience. So I think any Taj property, of course, but I think the Lake Palace Udaipur
Mm.
is spectacular,
It is.
and I would go there whenever I get the opportunity. It's such an incredible property. But
Yeah.
the Taj has, many, many great
Of course,
properties.
correct. No, that's right. That's right. But I was just in Udaipur with family a few months ago, so I had a chance to see the property. Incredible. Um, but Hiren, moving on a little bit, as Priyanka said, we're going to now try and take you outside of your early days in India to your work with Panera. You joined Panera right before the pandemic, if I understand correctly. So talk to us about that period. That period was, I think, a time of great challenge, but also obviously great lessons. Many people in different industries say that that time changed their industry and them, right? So talk to us to maybe about some of the lessons you learned. How do you navigate that period for Panera, and also what are some of the enduring lessons that still stand, even though now we're, let's say, past that COVID period?
Sure. So I think the bridge to Panera from India was Yum Brands. So I was in Yum for about 25 years, and I ran their businesses in Europe, and then back in India. I launched KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell in India, which was incredible. And then I became the
Kids
global.
across the country are thankful.
Yeah. And then I was the global president for KFC. But I think the key learning in that, and that's important because it kind of prepared me for the Panera role. I learned some invaluable lessons. One is that food retail is all about the right people doing the right things the right way. And the most important leader in a food retail company is not the CEO, but the restaurant general manager that runs that particular local restaurant. That is the most important leader. And the job of the CEO is to make things easy for that restaurant general manager so that they can take care of their employees. And if employees are happy, they'll take care of the customers. I also learned the power of franchisees, how important it is to work as one system with the franchisees in service of the brand so that the customers can never tell does this brand or the store belong to a franchisee or the company operations. It should be one brand, one way, one system, one team. So some really invaluable lessons that I learned at Yum Brands. And then when I went to Panera, as you mentioned, I came in at a point when there was a transition happening. The founder of the company, Ron Sheikh, hugely talented, one of the people I admired a lot, had led the company, had created the company and led it successfully for 30 years. My private equity company bought the brand and he left the business. So I came in into very big shoes as an outsider, like an Indian guy who had mostly been selling fast food, fried chicken, fried pizza, fried tacos, fried donuts, and came to lead Panera Bread, which is such an incredible company of serving food that you feel good about. So I had, I don't see I had stellar credibility when I came into the company. I had to really work hard towards that. And then suddenly the pandemic happened, and that was a moment of, a big sort of interruption of life as we knew it. So within that context, I would say my key lessons were a few. First is relationship before transaction. When you come to transform a company, you have to first establish yourself as a human and establish relationships before you can transact business. That is so important. Sometimes, leaders were in a rush to really drive the business agenda, but I think just pausing for a little bit and saying, Let the company know who I am, what's important to me, what my intent is, and why they should trust and believe me. So I think that's a very important first lesson that I learned that I would like to share with the listeners. The second is that any amount of external disruption is an incredible opportunity to transform. So when you are disrupted, I think one should have the mindset of being a windmill and not diving into the nearest bunker when things are hard. So when things get hard and there are winds of change, rather than diving into a bunker and saying, I hope this wind passes quickly, you stand tall and say, how might I be a windmill so I can harness the force of this change for good and transform the brand, the business, and the people and the team and make them even stronger at a faster pace because now I have the permission to drive change. So I think the second is look for opportunities to transform when there is major disruption happening that's beyond your control. And the third is that in those moments where your business and brand are under threat, thinking of that as an opportunity to build trust, not just survival of the business and brand, to build trust with your customers, with your teams, with your franchisees, with your community, by doing the right things, even though your financials and your brand is under threat, is so important. Because if you treat people well when times are bad, then when times recover, they don't forget that
Yeah,
and they repay that in multiple ways. So I would say those three have been important takeaways from Panera.
incredible
Um,
business.
Niren, how long were you in India before you left the country?
Well, yeah, it went in parts. So I was initially, when I was at the Tatas, about 7 years. And then I went to the UK to support the care of my daughter who was, very ill. I left at that time. And then I stayed out for about 10 years. Then went back to India to run these three brands for about 10 years. And then since then, I've been out of the country, I would say for the last, 10 odd years.
So you lost two of your children, and there's a beautiful movie called The Sky is Pink, with actress Priyanka Chopra and actor Farhan Akhtar, based on the true story of one of your daughters, Aisha. Um, Tell us about this phase of life that you went through with your family, your wife, your son, um, and walk us through that period of life and kind of how you view the world, how it shaped you, and how you made all these key decisions in your life personally and also professionally.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that question. There's also a documentary called Black Sunshine Baby on my daughter, also on Netflix. So I think a funny aside on the movie The Sky is Pink, Farhan Akhtar has always been sort of, was my number one hero. I remember the movie called Rock On, where sort of connected with him because I'm also a musician. I thought, this guy is so cool. So uh, it was very, very nice that, a very nice welcome coincidence when he ended up playing my role. And then, of course, Priyanka is a legend in her own right. But it's funny that my friend said to me, well, Priyanka and your wife are evenly matched because my wife is beautiful, stunning. They said, but Farhan is a significant upgrade on you, Niren. So, which I have to agree. So, I lost my first child, Tanya, when I was working in the Tatas. I was 24 years old. My daughter was 8 months old. I was a kid, I didn't even know. I just gotten married. And she died because she had this congenital defect. I was completely heartbroken by that. And interestingly, every time I've lost the two daughters, it has led to a change in my career. So when I lost Tanya, I felt so unanchored and so lost. I felt the need to change, to start again. And that's when I joined Yum Brands. And fast forward many years later, when Aisha passed away, I felt the same way, unanchored, completely lost, utterly bewildered. I wanted to start again, and that's when I went to Krispy Kreme and then Panera Bread. So my daughters have been very pivotal in me making those life decisions, because otherwise I'm a very deeply loyal person, and I like to, just kind of commit to something and just stay with it. My wife was, of course, traumatized when I left the Taj and I joined Yum Brands. She said, "This is so unlike you. You're such a loyal guy. Today you have left the Tatas. Tomorrow you will leave me," she said. So I said, and here we are 38 years later, I'm still married to her. I think my daughter's loss has been profound and very heavy and very deep. No parent should have to go through that. But this loss is not just my own. I think all of us, part of being human is to lose. I'm sure the two of you have also lost something or someone at some stage of your life. You can't escape it. And therefore, I think I have received that with deep humility and tried to convert that pain into purpose, embraced that pain, and tried to become a better human in service of other humans. That's how it's sort of impacted me. So that's sort of the impact the loss of my two daughters has had on my life.
What were during these, I mean, it was a long period that you had to go through this phase. Do you kind of, what were your anchors that you depended on? Was it, and how did you get through these? You were also making these tremendously difficult business decisions as well. So how did you balance that, and what were your anchors during that period?
I think so. The quick story on Aisha is that Tanya, of course, died very quickly. I was in India. Aisha was also born in India. I knew she needed a bone marrow transplant, for which she needed to go to the UK. We took her there. We didn't have any money. We raised a significant amount of money to save her life, thanks to the generosity of strangers in the UK. I was the bone marrow donor. She survived. We stayed outside to manage her health, went back to India, only to realize that she now had a fibrotic lung because of that transplant. So what cured her eventually killed her. And the doctors said she had only 5 years to live. So yes, you're right. It was almost 18 years of many ups and downs, moments when we thought we had beaten it and moments when we were beaten by it. It was, exceptionally traumatic. Now, through that phase, and I think your listeners will know, and I'm sure you also know that, motivation to do something is driven by two things. One is a pull, and the second is a push. And the pull is towards something, and the push is to get away from something. And both of those things, propel us to do something, that is meaningful. So I always had this deep desire to be the very best version of who I could be. And I had this burning desire to sort of compete with the best minds in the world and at a world stage and be, a leader of a large multinational companies. That was a pull and something I wanted to do. The push was I had lost two children and I had felt the deep heartbreak of not having enough money to save their lives. When Tanya was dying, my employees at the Taj Group of Hotels, I still remember, passed the hat around and collected 35,000 rupees to pay for my flights and a hospital bill in Batra Hospital in Delhi. I didn't have the money. When I went to the UK, I had only $2,000 to pay for my ticket. I didn't have the 150,000 pounds required to save my daughter's life. So the push was that I cannot fail my family. I have to be financially successful and independent so that I can be a capable and a loving father. How can I not have the resources that are required to take care of the medical situations of my family? That was the push, that I would wake up and say, I have to do well. I just have to do well. And then there was the pull. So I think these two things were what kept me going and kept me moving. And then, of course, you have to have luck. You have to have, some breaks, some opportunities, some things that are offered to you. And then, like this, I believe success is the function of two things: being ready for when the opportunity knocks. When the opportunity knocks, there's nothing we can do. But being ready, you certainly can.
Yeah.
So, like, really sort of being ready all the time, so that when the opportunity knocks, you're ready for it.
Um, First of all, thank you, Naren, for sharing. I think such an obviously deeply personal, I think, story and experience that you've been through, and then so articulately, I think, drawing both lessons and takeaways for others. Because I think too often, in places like Harvard and other places where you often are learning leadership, you're often only learning about people and people's experiences when things went well, right? And I think it's very, very important, and that's why I wanted to thank you for actually learning about leadership at the toughest times in your life, personally or professionally. Um, but now looking forward again, I think as you've in many ways inspired us to do through the lessons you just shared, it seems like you are again pivoting, right? Much like those two pivots you've spoken about, into another new phase of life with investments and teaching. I think you're back at Harvard now, teaching as well. Of course, mentoring brands and entrepreneurs. So, talk to us about this new phase.
Yeah, it's and I've after 35 years in the food retail business and having had the privilege of many adventures, I'm now at a pivotal point in my life, looking for meaning and purpose and what should I be doing. I have this mindset of like I'm going to die exhausted. When I die, I should feel, oh God, I'm thank God it's over. like, and until then, I want to go at about 1,000 miles an hour. That like right, squeeze the juice out of this gift of life, that I have. And I think part of that is, of course, realizing, having confronted mortality of my children, that you realize that none of us are going to be around. Death is the only certainty. It is only a question of when it'll happen. It'll happen to all of us. So why not make the most of the gift of life that we have? So that's my mindset. And as I pivot, my mindset is of being born again. The old me is dead, and a new me is born. And I think that sort of mindset is so important. Otherwise, when you've been in the corporate world, you keep comparing when I was in the good old days, and you keep sort of looking back over your shoulder, which is absolutely pointless. The question is, okay, that was then, this is now. Question is not what happened then, it is like, what will I do now in the future? So that's my mindset. It's a beginner's mindset on how can I now be the best version of who I want to be in pursuit of a new purpose. And my new purpose is to help future leaders become successful. And the three pathways I've identified to do that, as you mentioned: Harvard Business School. I've become an executive fellow at Harvard Business School, taught in the fall last year. The strategy unit with the first year MBAs was an absolute thrill, a highlight of my life. I used to think being a CEO is hard, but I tell you, being a professor at Harvard is 20 times harder. so I felt under pressure. I felt I had to learn a lot, and I love that. Second is I've started my own executive coaching practice. I'm coaching essentially CEOs of Fortune 100 companies. I also work with McKinsey as a leadership practitioner for their work with CEOs. So the coaching is doing extremely well. I'm writing 2 books, and I'd love for your audience to wait eagerly for what is to unfold. One book is on resilience, how to deal with failures, and the other book is on leadership. So those are my three pathways. And then, of course, underneath, to stay relevant, I am on a few boards. I work with private equity. I'm also fascinated by all things technology, so I'm investing and advising some tech firms. So that is my new portfolio, which I am really inspired by and excited about for the future.
Oh, incredible, incredible. A quick nugget I wanted to share. I think I mentioned to you last time we were speaking, I run a tech podcast, and one of the speakers. I was speaking with a professor called Professor Stuart Russell at University of California, Berkeley. He's been in the field of AI for over 4 decades now, and I asked him a question saying, in this time when AI seems to be disrupting jobs and careers and professions, what's the one or two jobs that you think are going to be the most sought after in the coming years? And the answer was executive coach.
Hmm.
Oh, really?
But the moment you mentioned executive coach, so he said executive coaches and life coaches are going to become so much more important because we already have this barrage of information and uncertainty given all that's going on in our world. And so his considered view after 40 years of being in this field and seeing the kind of disruption was executive coach and life coaches are a great profession to be going into. So unwittingly you've found yourself in that pathway as well. But Niren, tell us also, of course, we the podcast is India at Harvard. I wanted to get your view. Now, you've had a fair bit of time that you spent at Harvard, both as part of the program that you did, and now as someone teaching strategy at HBS. Talk to us about what has Harvard meant for you, right? Has it been as transformational as people say it would be? And so, what has been your personal sort of experience with Harvard now over the last 2 years?
Um, when I was a kid growing up in India, and I think you'll understand this, and I'm sure your listeners will as well. Howard was this dream, this
Yeah.
bright shining light somewhere in a distant land far, far away that I thought I would never reach. But Howard, it's like it was for me the epitome of excellence in academics.
Yeah.
And I deeply, and because I love learning, I had this pull towards Harvard. So that's the sort of background, lifelong longing for for Harvard. But it never happened, for I couldn't afford it, and I didn't never got the opportunity. But it stayed in my mind. And then I think every time I've had a transition or a pivot, when I've thought of sort of once again rebooting and getting ready for the future, I thought of Harvard. So when I lost Aisha and I was totally lost myself and was looking for meaning, I thought, okay, this is perhaps the time I need to go to Harvard Business School and do the advanced management program, that 70-day program in residence. It was the best thing I did. I went there for the first time, took many pictures in front of Harvard Business School,
Yeah, that's
and touched the ground several times. Couldn't believe I was there at Harvard, and then lived on campus and absolutely loved that experience of new friendships, the academic rigor, the level of excellence, the commitment, extraordinary, and the case methodology. So it really sort of absolutely was a 20 on 10 in terms of what I expected. And then fast forward, as I transitioned from being chairman of Panera and was leaving behind my corporate life, once again I wanted to find meaning. So I go back to Harvard and I do the Advanced Leadership Initiative program, a fellowship, spend a full year at Harvard. Again, new friendships, levels of excellence, intensity, case methodology, opportunities to train and mentor kids and students, and just the joy of being in that campus was extraordinary. So I spent a year, and through that, I had this clarity that I shared earlier of my desire to serve future leaders and the ways in which I want to do that. But it didn't stop there. I said, now I have to find a way of getting in and actually teaching. But will they want to take on somebody like me? I'm not an academic. So I went and had several interviews with the strategy unit and others at Harvard, and they were very kind to say, okay, we'll do a test run with you. So as an executive fellow, you can come in and join our faculty, and let's see how it plays out. And that's when I joined them last in the fall semester. I was, partnered with another very senior professor, Ashish Nanda, extraordinary
us.
leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was, learning from him and learning from all the other professors, and it made me realize, it humbled me, like in several ways. One is sitting around the room of these Harvard professors who've been doing this for the last 15, 20 years, but yet every week preparing for those cases as if they're preparing for the first time.
Yeah.
That is the level of excellence. I mean, if that is excellence. And then the second thing is that for them, it is a performance. How do you entertain? How do you engage? And how do you spark curiosity and help students learn how to think? That's a total skill. And the third thing was that I was not very good at that, because being a CEO, you're used to sort of telling people what you think, and you're not sort of wired up for asking people what they think and helping them discover the answers that they need to, which Harvard is sort of teaching me. And so it was an extraordinary experience. And I would say there were moments when I was standing in class and I was teaching a couple of cases, Lego and Netflix and so on. And in that brief moment I said, I'm so fortunate and grateful to be here in this school at this time in front of these kids. And I do think this is a calling for me. I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to really be here and serve the future generation of leaders. So I hope to return back to Harvard in the fall, but it's been absolutely an incredible experience.
I mean, there must be a sizable crop of students coming to HBS from India, or also who are looking to India as business opportunity or to be future leaders in the country. It's a growing economy, exciting time to be there. What advice would you give some of these future leaders who want to get into food and retail or hospitality? Particularly also curious to know what advice you would give to those in India that are looking to build global brands outside. Do these issues come up? What do you kind of advise them?
I would say that, firstly, in my various adventures, especially at Harvard, I've come across, incredibly talented students from India and other parts of the world. But India, of course, one has an affinity for. And I'm absolutely staggered by the intellectual capital, the gift, the curiosity, the commitment, the work ethic that many of our Indian students have, which I am so proud of. So I think we in India, and the listeners, I would say dream big. Don't dream through the lens of your constraints. Dream first without constraints and then make it happen. Sometimes we kind of are too afraid to dream because of our constraints. And I would say forget about your constraints, dream, and then figure out a way to make it happen. That's the first thing. The second I would say is that, we live in sort of unprecedented times of huge amounts of volatility and change, and in the global order at the national level, and also the onslaught of AI and the next sort of equivalent of industrial revolution that is happening. There's huge amounts of change and unpredictability. So I think it is never going to be enough. What you learn is never going to be enough. I'll say that again. What you learn will never be enough. You have to learn how to learn, because what you learn will never be enough. And learning how to learn is learning how to be curious. And I would say curiosity, is a muscle that you can develop every single day. So curiosity for me is finding something that you're interested in, that you find difficult, and then learning it. So for example, it could be languages, learning a language. It could be playing a musical instrument. It could be learning to play a new sport. It doesn't have to only be about business. But exercising that curiosity muscle, waking up every single day and say, I'm going to learn this one thing and I'm going to become really good at this, is a process. Because as you know, learning is a step change process. You learn, you develop quickly, then you stagnate. And many people give up when they stagnate.
Yeah.
But some who persist learn again, go up again, and then again they stagnate. So curiosity and learning is a muscle that you can exercise. And finally, I think I would say to the future leaders that the second attribute that we will need in this unprecedented, tough world, full of challenges, is that there are going to be many difficulties and setbacks and failures. And the thing that you need to develop is grit, tenacity, determination, resilience. And again, the way you can exercise grit, tenacity, resilience every single day is the following. If there is something that you think is important and you don't feel like doing it, do it. So, for example, let's say you've committed to yourself, I'm going to eat healthy. And in that moment, you have that bowl of ice cream and you have this bowl of chips and a nice burger
The Krispy Kreme
versus,
donut. Yeah.
Krispy Kreme donut is an exception. Or you have,
Of course. That's right.
or if you have a
Fantastic.
nice, or you should be having salad because you've committed to yourself. So you, in that moment where you are tempted, you make the choice, the tougher choice of eating healthy. Or say you're in the gym and you want to do that extra rep that looks so difficult, or those extra 5 minutes of running when you absolutely hate it and don't want to do it. That's how you build grit. So I think those three things, I would say dream big, be curious, and develop resilience and tenacity.
No, great, great. Naren, that has been fascinating. I know we are out of time, but I wanted to thank, on behalf of both Priyanka and I, but also everyone who's going to listen to some of the lessons you've shared. Thank you so much for being, I think, both enthralling. I think the HBS teaching experience shows, whether it was there before or not, I can't comment, but it's there now. So thank you for enthralling us, I think, with your stories and lessons and being so deeply personal, I think, about what drives you as a person, as an executive, as a father, as a family person. So really, thank you very much.